Here we go. Here we go, brownies. The kids cardiac. Catch me in the Muni where the party at. Dog pound, turn up with the elf up on my starter cap. Brought him back. Boy, we from the land and we proud of that. Louder man, front to the back. Here we go, I got him shouting that. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Game on the line, Joe Thomas, I promise. Jim Brown running through opponents, how I got this. I return like Josh Cripps. Hand for the mini, got the dog pound jumping. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Mr. Hero's turning 60. We're proud to have served your favorite cravings for 60 years in celebrating what we do best. Thanks, Ohio.
I crave a hero.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Ellery, coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Joined with me, as always, we've got Dustin out in Ohio. Real quick, if you haven't already, please download the Mr. Hero app. You can get buy one, get one offers just for signing up. You can build rewards points, which is a really cool feature. You can order food within the app. Quick, easy, to the point, feed your family. Mr. Hero, Dustin, how are you?
Well, you know, we have a press conference, and then we learn a little bit about the Browns, and then the Cavs try to steal the show. We might get in a little Cavs news tonight. We didn't even talk about that pre-show, but I think we got to talk a little Cavs, right? Cavs, you know, Cavs making some splashes. I think we saw that coming, but not kind of, it grew pretty quick with some other things. But yeah, we got a new head coach, Todd Monken, introduced yesterday with the presser, and I got to tell you, I'm just going to say it. It was refreshing. It was a very refreshing first press conference. There were some S-bombs dropped. There was some crying. There was some really organic press conference. It wasn't, it was different. It was very different.
Let me ask you now, okay, so when we did the show last week, it was literally just announced that the Browns were moving in this direction. They were going to hire Todd Monken. So we didn't have a ton of time to digest it. And at that time, personally, I was like, man, I don't know. I'm a little anxious about this hire. I'm a little bit nervous about the process, the hire itself. Now, a week removed, right? I've had time to sit with it, kind of see how I feel, listen to the press conference.
Study Monken and where he's been. Right, yeah.
And I will tell you, a week removed now, I feel pretty good. I'm excited. I think that the Browns may have found a guy. And obviously, I'm wearing my brown and orange colored glasses right now. Of course I am. I'm excited about this, but it was refreshing. It was different than anything that we've experienced with Kevin. Kevin was so buttoned up and professional and kind of a robot, right? And we got so much personality and football with Todd Monken. So I just want to ask you, now that we are kind of a week out from the hiring of Todd Monken, I know initially we were both like a little unsure. Yeah. Where are you now? Where do you sit with this?
Well, here's one thing I do know, and I got some intel. I'm going to give you some intel that probably is going to be a little shock. Maybe some breaking news. I got to hang out with Jameis Winston a little bit and bend his ear about Todd Monken. He is a big fan of Todd Monken and what he did with him at Tampa Bay. When he was a quarterback, he's a big fan. He goes, he is a football guy. He lives, breathes football. You know how you feel. He's a straight shooter. And I got to tell you this, the way you hear him talk, now this is going to be maybe weird to say, but he comes across a little Kurt Signetti. Like, I don't know if you kind of picked up on that in the presser, like, boom, boom, boom. This is what we're doing. This is how it's going to be next. And he was very matter of fact, even in that presser. And he even got a little matter of fact about Jim Schwartz. And I chip against Myles Garrett. You know, I slide against Grant Delpit, right? Like, you really got to – he goes, I think Schwartz is a great guy. And, of course, I think we both agree. We'd love to have him back. We know that's a very fluid situation with the Browns. But he basically was like, I took this job because of the players on the, and I think that says a lot about this franchise. Like only one half has to be fixed, right? Like this wasn't a rebuild. This is a reboot on the offensive side. And I think we learned a lot. And I got a little bit of Dorsey feel from him too, the former GM. And I think we got a real football guy that's going to tell you the truth behind the microphone when he goes up there.
So what was the breaking news? You said you had breaking news. Was it that you?
No, I was saying Jameis Winston was really, like I said, Jameis, you played with this guy. Tell me about him. And he goes, this is the right guy for the Browns. Like I felt like he was giving us some intel.
Name dropping that you hung out with Jameis Winston. That's your breaking news.
No, I'm being honest. Like, I don't think people get that intel from like players and playing with them, right? Like, I think when you get players that go out there and tell you things, they literally say things like, "Oh, we hope the next coach is going to be great for us." You know what I mean? You don't always get those side conversations.
Well, also the other part of it is Jameis isn't a Cleveland Brown, so maybe he is a little bit late into talking about that. But no, I'm just busting your chops, obviously. So I agree with you. You get somebody that, when we did this podcast several years ago with the hiring of Kevin Stefanski, going from Freddie Kitchens and John Dorsey, who were just football guys, kind of the epitome of, right? And then you get to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, who, maybe you overcorrect in a certain way where it's pure analytics and very robotic. I think what you're getting with keeping Andrew Berry and the addition of Todd Monken, it's a blend of both. And I think that's a good thing. Both things are good. Analytics are good. The idea, I think we're just a little burnt as Browns fans, right? Because we saw the far extreme of that. But a blend of their philosophies, I think, is really intriguing. I want to get into the press conference. That was pretty interesting. You mentioned a couple of snippets there. First, real quick, want to tell you about our good friends over at Stadium Mustard, guys. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you are doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. By the way, it is loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. So a couple of key takeaways from this press conference. And I want to kind of throw in what Haslam had to say, what Andrew Berry had to say, as well as Todd Monken. So kind of a combination of a bunch of different things here. But a couple of things that I think were key takeaways. You already mentioned one of them, and that is it doesn't seem that they are, optimistic about the future of Jim Schwartz as a Cleveland Brown, as a Cleveland Browns coach, if you will. I think that if there was any reconciliation, it probably would have happened by now. Positions are getting filled around the league, defensive coordinator positions, obviously head coaching positions are now all filled. So, if you're Jim, the way that this played out is it's interesting. I think it was a choice to go about this in the way that he did. And we said on last week's pod, we love and appreciate Jim and respect him and would want him to come back. But the idea that you cannot replace Jim Schwartz, I think, is incorrect. You can. There are guys out there that can come in and do a good job, but also recognizing the asset that you had in Jim Schwartz, right? So they were, Todd Monken had some things to say, and I think that maybe he's a little bit tired of this ordeal. So just to read you a couple of quotes here on Jim Schwartz, he said, "They're a big reason why I took this job, the defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz, as I hope he has for me, but I'll tell you, because of the players that are here, the ownership, Andrew Berry, and the ability to build this roster from the ground up on the offensive side." And I said this to the other guys. I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm going to say it. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. And when I was sliding a protection to the outside backers or Grant Delpit that were blitzing off the edge, I was sliding the protection of the players. And when I was worried about throwing to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell, to the left, that's who I was worried about throwing at. So I think that's an interesting quote. Right. One thing that is abundantly clear in what what Todd Monken was saying throughout his press conference is, it's about the players. He's a players over plays kind of guy. And thank God I am all in on that, players over scheme any day of the week, and recognizing who they have on this team. It's more than Jim Schwartz, right? The foundation is the players. It is what they are doing every single week on the football field. So I have a lot of respect for him being fairly blunt in that. And I don't think any of it was over the line. I don't think any of it was incorrect. I think if you're Jim Schwartz and you hear that, you're like, actually, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
And I think that was a little off the cuff. He goes, I didn't think I was going to say this. Maybe they can say something to me later, but I'm just going to tell you how I really feel. And that's kind of where he went down that rabbit hole. And everybody's like, oh, okay. This coach is going to, he's a leader of men at the end of the day, right? And he's going to, and a couple of things I pulled away from that he said also, the Haslams and those, they write me a check, and my job is to win football games. And he literally said, I will do everything to get, I don't want to misquote him, but basically my job is to win, and any obstacles that get in that way, I will try to deal without confrontation, I think is how he basically said that. And I think he's just a matter of fact kind of guy. And I think the players will galvanize around that. I think, but look, let's be honest. Like, he left college football to come back for an opportunity to coach in the National Football League. And I think he truly believes this is his last stop, and hopefully it's a long one for him here. And he lifts a Lombardi trophy in Cleveland someday. I mean, I think we would all build a statue of Todd Monken if that was the case. But I mean, the truth be known, I mean, I went back and looked, like, the irony of this, Allie, you may not, I mean, you probably already know this, but since 1999, there hasn't been a coach with a winning record in Cleveland. And that's even including Jim Schwartz. Nobody's had a winning record as a head coach here. I mean, he has the opportunity to have a winning record possibly, and I just think, and we'll get into his, maybe some of the players that he's already brought, some of the coaches he's already brought on that I think maybe Harbaugh thought he was going to get as well. But I don't know. It's just interesting. I think we were all kind of, like you said, give it a week, start thinking about this hire, what it looks like. But the more and more I do studies on Monken and where he's been, the quarterbacks that he's developed at Georgia and the national championships, there's a lot to like about this guy. And I just think the more I think we're going to find out about him, it's going to be interesting in seeing how this football team is built going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Just having sat with this now for a week, I feel pretty good about it. And we'll talk about the coaching staff here in just a moment. I want to get through a couple of other key points through the press conference, but he's entertaining. I'll give you that. The press conferences are going to be a lot different than what we're used to with Kevin, and sign me up for that. I think at first when Kevin first got to Cleveland and we were off of the tail of Freddie Kitchens and Hugh Jackson, he brought professionalism to the table, and we needed that at that time, right? This team was pretty immature culture and just kind of a clown show in so many ways. Kevin brought that stability, that professionalism. He was a grown up in the room, and that was appreciated the first couple of years, and then it grew old, right? There was no accountability, and you have to have that. Now, bringing in Todd Monken, who has been in football for, longer than I've been alive, and can come into I won't say winning culture. This team doesn't quite have that. He can take what we have to the next level, but to come in with an offensive identity and kind of pick up the pieces here. I'm really optimistic about Jim Schwartz. Why do I keep saying that? Todd Monken, just talking about Jim Schwartz in that press conference, it's just front of my mind. But, to bring a little bit of personality here, I think is what Cleveland needs. You mentioned the players are going to embrace that. He defended them on the defense. Fans are going to embrace that. This is vastly different than what we've had the past 6 years. So to have some personality and some give a damn, some leadership and accountability, man, that's something that we've been craving for a long time.
Well, and he also, two other little pieces of nuggets there. He is going to call the plays. That came out of the presser. I think he really was the only thing he really didn't answer was it's inappropriate to address Jim Schwartz in this press conference, and I 1,000% agree with that. I mean, I know what I understand what reporters were trying to do there. They were trying to see if they could get some intel, but also that he wasn't going to change the scheme on the defensive side of the ball. Like, no, why on God's green earth would I mess with that and how that works and give them that freedom and that attack that they can have on that side of the ball? Like, but that just shows you how he he's never going to tell you he's the smartest guy in the room. You know what I mean? He's just going to tell you, I know what I got. I know what I need to put together as a staff. And I think he's just going to always be honest and blunt. And I think that's going to be very refreshing for fans. I know fans will love that. I mean, the fans are going to embrace that. And I wish him the best of luck, because coaching the Cleveland Browns is never an easy task. And I think sometimes, you just don't know, right? We could sit here a year from now and this could be a very different conversation. But I honestly feel good about this a week removed from this.
Yeah, face value. I like it. I'm excited about it. There's a lot to be optimistic about with this hire. A couple of other things here that we could take from the press availability. Non-committal at quarterback. I don't think that's a huge surprise, right? Todd Monken said it's still to be determined. And then Haslam says, let me pull it up here. Really, he's an offensive coach. He'll start looking at that. That'll be Todd's call. We have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. We'll let Todd give us advice, and he and Andrew will work with that. So no surprise there, that they're kind of non-committal at this point. My prediction is Shedeur Sanders is the week 1 starting quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in somebody, this offseason.
Bridge quarterback. Yeah, bridge quarterback.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. But, and of course, it's not just, is Shedeur Sanders going to be the starting quarterback? Well, now you're throwing in a Deshaun Watson situation. So, of course, that question was asked. I appreciate the non-committal because, we don't need to commit right now. A couple of other things here I thought were interesting. Embracing the youth. So this is more of an Andrew Berry thing where he talks about what they're going to do in free agency and basically not just bring in old guys. So I just want to read you this quote. I thought this was quite interesting. He said, that's where we're projecting based on the amount of draft resources we have, and then probably just anticipated activity in free agency that combined with having a very young defense, we would anticipate that we'd be very young. We're not necessarily going to be in the phase where we're going to sign a bunch of mid-30 veterans to put us over the top, so to speak. That doesn't mean that we're not going to participate in free agency or participate with veteran players, but the reality of having 10 selections, eight that are in the top 150, and already a very young defense with a pretty heavy investment on offense. In most world, we're probably going to be one of the younger teams in the league.
Yeah.
So no surprise, right? I'm just
And here's the truth. With where we are with some veterans on the defensive side of the ball, mixing with some young players, and the fact that those guys are locked up to a multiple-year contract, and we're going to be pretty young on the offensive side of the ball. We know that, right? We have a young quarterback, young running back, Harold Fannin, very young, had a good draft last year. I got to tell you, this could be a really young, exciting football team to watch over the next few years if, and that's a big if, you hit on your draft picks. We always talk about that. If you can hit on, half the draft picks in that top 8, or those ones that are in the bigger part of the draft there, then you're doing pretty good, right? Like if you can go out and get a number one receiver that knocks it out of the ballpark for you, and you get the offensive line figured out, well, you're not too far away, right? Like you're not too far away at that point because, obviously we still have Deshaun's contract that's $50-60 million this year, but after 2026, there's a lot more freedom for this Cleveland Browns front office when it comes to cap. But, we just saw the cap got bumped up by what, 20 million, something like that. It was another $20 million. So that helps the Browns as well too.
Yes, definitely. All right. We're going to bring David on here in just a moment, talk about the construct of the coaching staff as we know it so far. Before we do that, Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about primetime?
Yeah, guys, we had a great time out at primetime. I mentioned Jameis Winston was out there. By the way, the fans love him. He is larger than life. And also T.O. was there. Terrell Owens was actually there signing and doing a eBay Live. It wasn't a public event, but he was doing a private signing. So pretty excited. There'll be some more things coming up. And Allie, this is not sports related, but on March 1st, they're bringing in Chevy Chase. That's right. From National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation will be making an appearance at primetime. So that's kind of cool. So
very cool. Very cool. So let's bring the doctor on, Dr. David Ellery. This is brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards.
Here we go, Brownies Nations. We are here with Larry Lorello at Huntington Field to talk about Here We Go Brownies wine and all the other amazing wines at Lorella Vineyards.
Yeah, I just want to tell all of you guys, it's harvest season right now. We just started with some of the whites, and reds will be coming in next. Stop out the winery, all the wineries out in Northeast Ohio, for to check out all the harvest and what we're doing out there. It's a really good time right now.
Here we go, brownies. Here we go.
Here we go.
Woof, woof.
Woof, woof.
All right, let's bring him on. Dr. David Ellery, the husband of the program. Hi, David.
Hello. Hi, Molly. Hey, Dustin. Ooh, sorry about that glare.
David, how are you? How you been?
I'm great. I am great. It's finally warmed back up here in Pensacola. It was, listen, we all know that we don't have it nearly like you guys do, but no, hear me out. Sunday morning at 6 a.m., it was 18 degrees here, like true 18, real feel single digits. That doesn't happen in Pensacola, Florida every year, and it is a shock to the system, let me tell you.
Well, David, David, you grew up in Ohio, right? Correct? All right.
Yep.
Well, that has been the average high temperature for Cleveland, Ohio for the last 10 days, 18 degrees. So
I shouldn't have said anything.
No, it's been, what was kind of troubling was, I forget what day it was. One day it was about 65 degrees, which great, love it. The next day it was below 20. So that'll mess
with your blood. That'll mess with your blood. Yeah.
So I was just allergic and
allergies.
You definitely have it worse, but kind of shocking for it to be that cold here in Pensacola. That's not typical.
You got snow. You didn't get snow again this time, did you? I know you got snow.
A light dusting. It was
okay. I remember, wasn't it like the year before last? You got dumped on in the pool and all kinds of crap happened.
Yeah. Yep. Still dealing with that a little bit, but yes, got over a foot of snow. Crazy. David, a couple of things before we talk about the offensive coaching staff. Wanted to turn it over to you. If there's any injuries, I don't think that there are. I don't think that I missed anything, but just want to run it by you real quick and see if we missed anything.
No, there's really been no updates. I mean, I found some clip on YouTube from a radio show, guys talking about JOK. But it really wasn't an update. All they said was like, yeah, we don't know. We would love to have him back, and just imagine him next to Carson. So obviously, it'd be amazing if that were the case. But I mean, otherwise, no. I mean, on the injury front, on the recovery front, all of that, they're really not, putting anything out right now. Obviously, really the big ones that we kind of have in the forefront of our minds are JOK, Deshaun Watson, who we know is practicing, and then Quinshawn with his ankle fractured and dislocation. But like we talked about there, that's a bony injury. Should heal very reliably. Bone should be close to healed at this point, and hopefully he's walking without crutches soon or already, and then he'll be ready for the season. So apart from those big ones, I don't really have any other updates. There's no news to pass along.
Cool. Before we turn it over to the coaching staff, just want to get your viewpoint from the press conference.
Yeah, it's I think you guys used the perfect word with refreshing and just a nice change of pace. And I know that's kind of, at the end of the day, that was what we were all just seeking was change and kind of hoping for a little bit of, an injection of energy, an injection of something different. And I definitely think he brought that for sure. And his personality really came out, and I think that was really, really cool to see. I think he's got the fan base pretty excited, as you just pointed out there was one of the comments. And I don't know, I don't think you guys mentioned this one, but one of the quotes that kind of gave me a chuckle was when he was asked about his marriage and his relationship with his wife. And he talked about, being together for 40 years, but only married for 34, and saying really those first 6 years are the one that's counted because he's actually been married to the game. So, I'm sure they have a great relationship at home, but just an emphasis on how seriously he takes this and how much he loves football and loves the game. That's what you want. You want a guy who loves the game, a guy who's dedicated to it, and a guy who's going to, give everything he has within reason to making sure your team is in a position to win. And I think it sounds like so far that's what we're getting out of Todd Monken, and that's very exciting.
Definitely.
I was just going to say, you guys are perfect because you're both on the podcast for an hour, so it doesn't count for taking away from the marriage. I was like, it's an hour. You're both are contributing the hour, so you don't take away from the marriage. It's perfect.
Yes, this is quality time right here, David.
That's exactly right.
let's turn it over to the coaching staff so far, the offensive coaching staff. Just real quick, we'll run through it. They hired the offensive coordinator, Travis Switzer, their pass game coordinator, Danny Breyer, quarterbacks coach, Mike Bajakian, tight ends, Jeff Blasco, and offensive line is George Warhop. So basically, they brought the entire offensive staff from Baltimore here. So we will go individually and go through, their career accolades and all of that good stuff. But, let's just leave it at that. That basically you get the Baltimore offense, put it in Cleveland with this current roster. How does that make you feel, Dustin? I mean, your thoughts just kind of right off the top with some of these hires. Like I said, we'll get into each of them individually and talk about that. But just basically the idea of bringing Baltimore's offense and bringing it here, how do you feel about that?
I mean, other than beaming up a ship and putting Lamar Jackson down here, it's pretty good. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm missing is bringing Lamar Jackson with that. It's interesting. Like, there was a lot of accolades made around the league when Todd Monken was hired, right? And I think there was a lot of people that came to him because they respect him as a coach. And I think, and I don't know this, I mean, Harbaugh made some great comments. He goes, yeah, my job was to talk him out of the job, right? Like, and he was trying to talk him out of the Browns hiring him. So I like this coaching staff. Did you mention, and I think he's been hired, but the 25-year-old kid that is up in the press box with Todd Monken, it's escaping me, but he's kind of the whiz kid. He's 25 or 26 years old, but he's the analytics guy.
Oh, no. Oh gosh, it's escaping me as well. But yes, that's also notable.
Yeah. So, but that's very notable because I guess like he was very instrumental extending plays with Lamar Jackson and key fourth downs and stuff like that. So just from an analytics standpoint. So again, I think this is really great, and I'm looking forward to him rounding out the staff. It'll be really interesting to see what he does with the quarterbacks. I mean, I think that's going to be a big thing for this. But no, not to get too far off here, but talking about this coaching staff, when you take the Ravens coaching staff, bring it to Cleveland, and you bring Todd Monken, this is a guy that's already coached twice a year against the Bengals and the Steelers, and now he knows the Ravens. Clearly, he knows the players. I feel like you have a little bit of a cheat code by hiring Todd Monken as your head coach. And I don't think that's really being talked about in the media a lot, or maybe it is, and I'm just missing it. But he's kind of got the cheat code on the whole AFC North of teams you play 6 times a year. That has to count for something, I think. But
yeah, no, you're right. That is a really good point that I think is kind of getting overlooked. And one of the reasons that when Kevin interviewed in Baltimore, a lot of people were nervous about, like, hey, he brings a lot of knowledge, and that's kind of a scary thing. And I think it's just being overlooked right now because unfortunately the Browns had a down year. But you bring some stability, some winning culture, and good offense to this team. Watch out, as well as some divisional secrets. Nice, sign me up for that. Just looking at this offensive staff, I think one thing that if you're going to be buying stock, or if you're taking a look at your fantasy draft strategy, take Winchon, right? They are going to run the ball. They are going to focus on running the ball. Just right away, obviously you're getting George Warhop. He's an offensive line guy. Travis Switzer, offensive line guy. They are going to want to figure out this run game. David, turning it over to you, just kind of your quick thoughts on bringing Baltimore's offense to Cleveland.
I think it's really cool to see all this. I mean, I don't, trickling in doesn't kind of convey the way that I feel about it. I mean, really pouring and seeing all these coaches and connections kind of come to fruition as Monken got the head coaching job. You can see he's very well connected, very well respected, and people want to come coach with him. So it's nice because it kind of has made Cleveland seem like a desirable job from that standpoint. And he's bringing guys who want to be here and like giving them an opportunity to step up in different roles. And it's again, to be redundant, it's refreshing and it's exciting because he's clearly, he has a plan in place. He knows what he wants to do. He's a man on a mission and he is just going after it. And then, would we have seen that with a first-time head coach who's much younger with less experience? We would see something similar, but I don't think you'd have as much access to guys as Todd Monken does. And so it's very cool. I'm very excited to see it. And it's just bringing the Ravens offense essentially minus the players, but the coaching staff and the mindset and the ideology is cool. And I think what's even cooler is that it's not going to be the Ravens offense in Cleveland. It's going to be the Cleveland's offense. He's going to adapt to the players. As you said, he's players, not scheme. He's personnel. And so while it is bringing all those Ravens coaches to the program, it's more about making his own here in Cleveland. And it's very cool. I like seeing the process.
I find really notable here is the fact that this entire offensive coaching staff chose to go with Todd Monken over John Harbaugh in New York. And I think that speaks loudly to the character and to the coach that is Todd Monken. I mean, we see what Harbaugh's doing in New York, made a kind of an interesting choice at offensive coordinator and bringing in Matt Nagy, who's struggled, kind of to put it bluntly. So I think that you look at this, you're like, okay, all right, I can get behind this. I have some optimism here. I think that maybe they could have taken a bigger swing at offensive coordinator. And I think quarterbacks coach, okay, maybe you could have done a little bit better. But I mean, I'm really just being very critical here. At the end of the day, I think this is a very solid coaching staff. I'm not surprised that Monken's going to be calling the plays. I don't really have an issue with that. There's no real surprise there. So let's kind of get into it. Let's start with the offensive line. George Warhop. Cleveland fans, you may remember him. He was in Cleveland 2009 to 2013 as the offensive line coach. Guys, he has been coaching since 1983. So he's done it, and he's been an offensive line coach almost everywhere he's been. So, I mean, you're getting a guy that, knows the game inside and out. And during his time in Cleveland previously, I would say that was kind of partially, part of the peak of the offensive line with Joe Thomas. You had some great players in that time. So I feel pretty good about that. I don't have any issues with this hire.
The first hire he made too. I mean,
I was just saying the first hire that he made very quickly. So you feel good about this. This is I don't want to say a home run hire because we obviously haven't seen this come into fruition yet, but on paper, I'm pretty optimistic about this one. All right, let's talk about the offensive coordinator, Travis Switzer. I was a little bit surprised. I wasn't sure what direction they would want to go. At the end of the day, they will be running Todd Monken's offense, what he wants to do with the personnel here in Cleveland. But to give you kind of some backstory on Travis Switzer, he's been in Baltimore essentially his entire career. He's an Akron guy. He played at Akron. He went undrafted in 2015. And from that point, he was in Baltimore as an administrative assistant, then got promoted to a performance staff assistant, coaching analyst, offensive quality control, then to run game coordinator. And now they're bringing him in as the offensive coordinator in Cleveland. So, you're bringing back kind of a hometown guy. He's from Pennsylvania, but went to Akron. I think, sure, he's 33. You're taking a swing here and, maybe he's the next up and coming guy. I don't know. But overall, I don't have any issues with it. Guys, what do you think?
Well, I'll go real quick and then David, you can jump in. Here's the thing. I don't care what profession you're in. If you're in an organization for 9 years, and we saw this with Kevin Stefanski through the Minnesota Vikings, they would always said, Kevin's a guy you got to keep on staff, right? Like when these other head coaches would go through, I kind of feel like, as they made changes in Baltimore and brought in offensive coordinators and other people, this guy's been there 9 years in Baltimore. 9 years is a long time to be on anybody's staff. I don't care if the coach has been there 20 years, but 9 years. And he's progressively gotten elevated, right, in his career. And I think Todd Monken's giving him his flowers and saying, look, just like myself, I've been an offensive coordinator. I've done a lot of things. I'm now the head coach. It's your turn. Let's go. So I think that's kind of where this kind of landed. It's his turn to get his opportunity.
Yeah. David, you got anything here?
I mean, just echoing what you guys have said, like he's definitely proven himself, at least within that single organization. And what I like is what I think is interesting. We'll see how it plays out as coming as an offensive line guy. I mean, he played center. And so he's definitely all about getting that ground game going. And we know, for the 2 or 3 years where he was run game coordinator and offensive quality control coach and involved in that, like they had, the leading rushing game in the league. Obviously, Derrick Henry has a big role in that, but we still got a block for the guy. So I'm excited about it. Curious to see how it goes. We've officially gotten to the point for me where new coaching hires in the NFL are younger than me, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. Here's another Akron guy, and they bring in the pass game coordinator Danny Breyer, also from Baltimore, but went to Akron, so that's kind of coincidental. But bringing him in, pass game coordinator, he's been in and around the league for the past 9 years. I mean, Dustin, to your point, that speaks to something. And spent 3 years in Baltimore before coming to Cleveland. He was on the offensive side of the ball. He really worked with tight ends pretty closely. So you feel pretty good about that, given our personnel and what that looks like. So I don't have any issues with that one. And then their tight ends coach, they brought in Jeff Blasco. I don't really have a ton off the top of my brain about Jeff Blasco, but he's been in and around the league for a while as well. He's let's just go in here to his career path. He was with the Jets last year as their tight ends coach, the Cowboys prior as their run game coordinator. He was with Browns in 2019. So I mean, he's got some experience, right? I don't have a ton of information on him, to be frank, but you bring him in, and then Jake Ian is your quarterbacks coach. So he's one where you're like, okay, I don't know, he's had the title of quarterbacks coach essentially since 2007, and really that's just kind of what he's done throughout the National Football League. He's bounced around college, NFL, but one thing I can be optimistic about is that they have a quarterbacks coach. A couple of years under Kevin, they just didn't. And that was weird. That was weird. So overall, guys, And
then did you want to talk about the analytics guy a little bit? Because I think he's kind of interesting.
Go for it.
Just that what they used for him specifically on those game packages, like for the fourth, like I did some research. Is there any other kind of guy like this in the league? I don't think there is. And a lot of people called it kind of the secret weapon that Baltimore was using to elevate kind of Lamar into like an MVP type of candidate. So I don't know. I've done a little research on this guy, but I have not seen another, from what I can do research on, that there was another team that had a guy like him. And I could be wrong, but this was interesting. So
that I don't know off the top of my head. That could exist. I wouldn't be surprised. There are a lot of teams out there that really put a heavy emphasis on analytics and what that can do for your offense or defense. So I don't think this is like the secret weapon necessarily. I think that certainly it's an asset and you're excited to have it, because we mentioned at the start, I'm optimistic about kind of blending analytics plus just football.
And I think Monken is really that, because he's brought up analytics in previous interviews and stuff. I think he's kind of a hybrid. He's like a football guy with blending the analytics. And I think that's what a lot of Browns fans have been asking for, is a little blend of, not all analytics, but let's have some football sense in there and mix in analytics. I think that's really, the right way to go.
I mean, so I think you're talking about Daniel Stern, and I think it's interesting just because that's football now. There's so many moving parts, and as a head coach, obviously you have to be expected to be able to manage all of those. But if you can hire additional guys who can kind of manage those things for you and help, clue you in. Yes. I mean, we saw it firsthand when we went to the Lakers game in New Orleans not that long ago. We could see all the bench coaches watching replays on a small a video screen, and then you'd see JJ go to them and point to them and be like, do I challenge this or not? And they would say yes or no. And so having somebody that can kind of review those things quickly and then feedback quickly as well is cool. I mean, it says 10 seasons with Baltimore, he managed game situations, including clock management, fourth down decisions, and challenges. I mean, you get a window of 40 seconds between plays to make those decisions. And so someone's sole job and their focus is on that, I think is very beneficial, because how many times, I think every weekend, Allie, when we're watching football, we say, wow, that was terrible management, or wow, why did they challenge that, or why didn't they? And so if you can have someone that minimizes the impact of those decisions, you never know. That might get you an extra play or get you another win on the season. That could be the difference between the playoffs or not. So I like the idea. And if he spent 10 years with John Harbaugh doing that, I have to imagine he was pretty good at it.
Doesn't hurt. Certainly.
Yeah, and the pre-snap penalties, right? And those type of things that we just I mean, that all goes into that, right? Like when you have extra seconds in a football game that goes at the speed of light and you need to go quickly, to your point, David, little things like that really do matter. And not to get back to the press conference, but I mean, when he went and when he goes, oh, 4th and 2, we're that's not how it is in the NFL, right? Like that's not the way the game is anymore, right? It's not really, you didn't really get out of it yet. So yeah, I mean, I think he understands that.
Just something that's different than what we're used to with Kevin Stefanski previously. As I mentioned, a couple of years with Kevin, you didn't have a quarterbacks coach, or you didn't have somebody like Stern that could manage the game in that aspect. One thing I can appreciate about Todd Monken is him right away recognizing I can't do it all. He's delegating. I cannot do it all. And I don't think anybody's asking him to. Or not even just I can't do it all. Maybe it's I don't know how to do this. This is something that I am not good at, so I'm going to give it to a subject matter expert, if you will. And right. I can just right away appreciate that humility. I think the humility that it takes as a leader to say, I've got too much on my plate. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to overload my plate. So that's pretty cool. Real quick, yeah, go ahead, Dustin.
No, as I said, but you bring up a good point. Like a good leader of a business, a CEO or CFO or whoever that is, brings in the great talent around him to build a great team because you're great at this. This is my weakness. This is your strength. And I think that's what I was so refreshing about Todd. He's like, yeah, we're going to figure this out and build an elite staff. He kept saying an elite staff. Like those were comments that he made. And I thought that was very interesting.
What does that sound? Do you guys hear that? Or is it just me?
I do. It sounds like somebody's spraying a can on a.
I think it's my computer. It's the fan is working overdrive. Sorry about that. Here, let's test the theory.
Yeah. All right. Well, while he's muted, I will tell you quickly about our friends over at We Bleed Ohio, guys. If you are looking to get your baseball, football, basketball apparel, you can get it there at We Bleed Ohio. They've got great designs, or of course your official Here We Go Brownies podcast hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt. They can do it there. Also, just want to highlight our good friend, Crystal John Tony. If you are in the market to buy, sell, invest in real estate, give her a call at 216-215-6663. She can help you through the process. It can be overwhelming. It can be stressful. You can have a lot of questions. She's your go-to girl. JohnTonySells@gmail.com. She will set you on the right path. So NFL awards are upcoming, as well as the Senior Bowl. The Pro Bowl just happened, and of course, we got the Super Bowl this weekend. So I'd like to kind of give some predictions on what we think of the awards, and we'll start with you, David. That way, whenever you're not talking, you can just go on mute because that fan is insane. I mean, what is your 2003?
Well, it's turned off. Like it's slowed down, so I don't know if you hear it anymore or not because I don't hear it.
All right, I'll let you know. But let's kind of just kick things off. We'll go rapid fire right through some of these, but let's predict some NFL awards. David, who's your MVP of the league?
My MVP is Matthew Stafford. Even though they didn't make it all the way and they lost kind of a tough one or a heartbreaker, like he is, I mean, still year in and year out producing the way he has since he came to the league, and he's awesome. You and I talk about it every time we see him play. Like we love the guy, we love his athleticism and his fire and his drive, and like he, for being, whatever age he is now, he still moves so well and he's so athletic, and the no-look throws are just unbelievable. So I think Staff should get it this year.
Yeah, that's what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the quarterbacks because usually they like to give it to a quarterback, but I'm trying to think of one that has been more important to the team because you think of Darnold, and there are many more other things about the Seahawks. So I think I'd have to give it to Matt Stafford when you look at like who's probably going to walk away with it, because without Matt Stafford, I mean, are the Rams in the playoffs? Are they deep in the playoffs? Like every year he seems like, I don't know, like he doesn't age.
I think it's really between two. It's either Matt Stafford or it's Drake May.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm going to go with Matt Stafford because of that. I think he's so important to the team and what they do offensively. I'm also going to go with Matt Stafford. Let's keep it on the offensive side of the ball. I'll start with you here, David. Your offensive player of the year.
There's probably gonna be some redundancy here because we talk about it, but also because I think there's some pretty clear favorites. This time I'm going to go with the team that's still playing. I'm going to go with JSN. Homer bias notwithstanding, like he is freaking awesome. I mean, he is the best receiver in the league right now. Barely eked out Puka for yardage, but I think it's had such a huge impact to the team that he plays for, and just produces week after week after week, and it is so much fun to watch. And just makes you think, what if he didn't get injured against Notre Dame 3 years ago?
Yeah. Totally different. I'm going to say the same thing as JSN. He's my offensive player of the year. You could probably throw Puka in this conversation, and he'll, I'm sure, get some votes, but I'm far and away from me, it's JSN. What do you think, Dustin?
I think it's going to be unanimous. It's not going to be close. Same.
Well, similarly, on the defensive side of the ball, defensive player of the year, I think this is probably going to be unanimous. And it's our guy. It's our guy, Myles Garrett. I mean, like, he broke the sack record. He just had an insane year. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, it's the reason the Browns have 5 wins.
Not wrong. Okay, let's go with the rookies, and let's start on the defensive side of the ball. I'll kick this one off. Defensive rookie of the year, also giving it to our guy. I think it's Carson. I know he towards the end of the year got hurt, missed some time, but he was so consistent and had so much production throughout this season that trumped everybody else defensively, all the other defensive rookies. I'm going with Carson. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah, and the guy has tiger blood. Like, he didn't even want to come out of a game, right? Carson Schlesinger, I think if it was a redraft, we all know he would be a first-round pick, period. If it was, how they always do the redraft, like, where would these guys really have fallen based on their talent and how they played in their first year? So, yeah, let's give it this kid's got a bright future.
Yeah. David, what do you think?
Same. I mean, I definitely think there's a real world where the Browns win 2 and NFL awards this offseason just because of the defensive side of the ball and what it can do. And there really isn't anyone else I think that's that close. I mean, there's other candidates. You kind of predicted Jahad Campbell at the beginning of the year when we saw him get drafted. But overall, like, Carson is the guy. He's unstoppable.
All right, I'm gonna stay with you, David, on this one. We're gonna turn it over to the offensive side of the ball. Rookies, offensive rookie of the year. Who you got?
So similarly, I think this one's pretty obvious in terms of who it's going to be. So it's probably Tet, but I'm going to give an honorable mention to the tight ends, the rookie tight end class. Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin, and Colson Lovin. 5th, 8th, and 9th in tight end receiving yards, respectively. Colson Lovin really came on at the end of the year. Obviously, we know Harold produced all year, and Tyler Warren was an escape route, an escape valve, and just a safety net for whoever was playing quarterback in India at the time. So those guys were awesome, and they're not going to get the award because it's going to go to Tet, but they really we're in the golden age of the tight end. You hear Todd talk about it all the time, Todd McShay, like, this is the golden age of tight ends, and there's even more coming out this year. So I just like kind of recognizing those guys.
Yeah, I agree. Crazy to think that earlier in the season it was basically a mecca and that's it. Like, he is far and away winning this award, and then he dropped off just tremendously. And then here goes Tet. He starts to skyrocket. So I'm going to go with Tet McMillan. He's the guy. I agree with you, though. Some fantastic tight end production. And there's some other offensive groups that did well. Some of the running backs did well. Tight ends. It was a lot of fun. This was a fun rookie class. But I'm going to go with Tet McMillan here. Dustin, what do you think?
For the sake of podcasting, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go quarterback here. I'm going to go Tyler Shue, quarterback. I think you could throw some of these running backs in there, but clearly your guy's going to win. I mean, he's going to win. I mean, that's obvious, but just for the sake of it, just for podcasting, I'm going to change it.
Sure. All right, 2 more here. We're going to do comeback player of the year and coach of the year. Let's start with comeback player of the year. I'll kick it off. I'm going to go with CMC on this one. He had a fantastic year. To be honest with you, in fantasy drafts, a lot of times he was available for me and I didn't take him. I did in one league and that worked in my favor. But, I was kind of just holding my breath. I thought he was going to get hurt and kind of just do what he does. But he had a great season, obviously coming off of injury from last year. So I'm going to go with CMC. David, what do you got?
I agree. I think it's CMC. He played in 4 games last season. This year he played in all 17, which is the second time he's ever done it in his career. And one more fun stat: he now, for the second time, had a 1,000-yard rushing season and a 900-yard receiving season, tying Marshall Faulk for the most times ever done by a single player. So, to come back after going to Germany for probably stem cell injections for your Achilles tendons, and then come back and play all 17 games and be the driving source of your offense, amazing. The guy is awesome.
Yeah. Real quick, just want to highlight that we do have a fan of the year, Larry Lorello.
We're trying to induct Larry this year as the fan of the year. That's a
great. Awesome.
This is the campaign that starts.
All right, I like it. Starts here. Dustin, who you got? Come back.
Same. I'm saying.
Yep. All right, and we'll finish with coach of the year. I think it's probably down to 2. I think it's the 2 that are actually playing in the Super Bowl, right? It's Vrabel or McDonald. I'm sure you could throw in a couple of other guys here and there. Ben Johnson probably could have a conversation about. I'm going with Vrabel. What he did, the stability he brought to the Patriots after a very down year. He had a rookie Drake May last year, brings a lot of stability. One thing I can really appreciate about this Patriots team is they've got a lot of talent, but they are not superstar heavy. They've got a lot of guys that just do their job well, and they've got a lot of depth, and you get the most out of that by coaching. So I'm going to go with Vrabel. Who you got, Dustin?
Vrabel, and I'll tell you why. Basically, they won 5 games last year, and he's flipped it to the Super Bowl. That's crazy, right? He's flipped a team with 5 wins to the Super Bowl. Yep. And we know he's a player's coach, but man, I can't think of it. There's maybe some other examples, but to go from 5 to the Super Bowl, and God forbid he wins it, another Super Bowl for the New England Patriots, that's crazy, right? That's crazy talk. And by the way, this was a guy that was on our staff.
Yeah, he was in the building. David, what do you got?
I agree. This is, a boring part of the podcast a little bit because we're all picking the same thing. But they had 4 wins actually, Dustin, the last 2 seasons. So they've almost doubled that in one season. And to go from the greatest head coach in the NFL of all time to then Gerard Mayo for a year, and then this, like you said, Ali, brought immense stability, turned it around, and didn't really have a ready-made team. Whereas in Seattle, that was kind of there with their defense already established and the offensive weapons in place besides Sam Darnold. So it's remarkable. He did a similar job in Tennessee, being able to not get to a Super Bowl, but take that team pretty far too, which besides Derrick Henry had far fewer pieces, I think. So it's Vrabel, and he's awesome.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to tell you about our friends over at City Barbecue, guys. If you are wondering what you should have for dinner or for lunch, or of course maybe your catered event, the answer is right in front of you. It's City Barbecue. They've got award-winning sauces, sides, meats. They do it right. They're very friendly, easy to work with, and of course the food's just good. So please check out our friends over at City Barbecue. So let's make some picks, guys. Let's make some Super Bowl picks. Crazy to think that here we are.
Any Cavs talk? We're doing a little Cavs talk.
Yeah, let's do that real quick. Actually, let's finish with that. Let's make our Super Bowl picks, and we'll finish with some Cavs talk. This is tough. This is a really difficult game to pick, and I'm
going to let you go first because I know if we pick the same team, it's got to be a score tie.
You have the opportunity to tie me throughout all of our picks. It's crazy.
Then I came back.
You did have a great comeback. Crazy to think that we're here, and what a year it's been, and a lot of ups and downs as Browns fans. But we're about to head into the off season here after Sunday, and things are going to get really real. So we're excited to talk about that with you. But let's talk about this game, David. Who do you have?
So I just kind of off the cuff, going with my gut. I think it's going to be the Seahawks. I know the Patriots have their magic. Obviously, New England is they've got 6 titles and they're going for a record 7th right now. And they were so blessed and lucky and whatever you want to call it throughout the Tom Brady era. But I think the Seahawks have the more complete team. Their defense is outstanding. They've got Darnold, who's got a lot more experience under his belt, and even though he's kind of choked in big games in the past, he has stepped up this season. And I think that experience comes through in the end for him over Drake May, who maybe has another turnover or two. I mean, he has been turnover prone. He's dropping the ball. He's throwing interceptions in the playoffs. They're getting away with some wins here. So I'm going Seahawks. I think also the fan base and some of the organization still feels a little cheated or stolen from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago between them. And so this is a chance at revenge for the Seahawks.
All right. I am pretty torn here. I'm against Snakes, and that his so I'm gonna go with the Seahawks here. I'm gonna go with Seattle. And Dustin, what do you got?
Okay, well, this is interesting. I didn't know where we would land on this, but a couple things. I do think the Seahawks are the more complete team, all well-rounded when it comes to players. Also, they're going into a venue that they play in a lot. A little bit of home field advantage out there on the West Coast. Travel, all those things, those all. I mean, although they take basically 2 weeks to get out there because there's a week between the Super Bowl. But you got to give me the Seahawks, which means Allie and we got to really quickly, before we talk Cavs talk, for our tiebreaker, you and I need to pick a score to make it a since we're.
I'm not going to tie with you. You either tie or lose. I'm good.
No, but I'm saying because I took the Seahawks, we got to come with the tiebreaker, because there's no you can't. You see what I'm saying?
So then you got to take the Patriots, right?
No. I'm saying if we take the same team, the score is basically I tie for the year.
What do you think? What do you do here? I mean, because
this is tough. There were no ground rules set beforehand, but I think ultimately the picks have always just been what decided the winners and losers. It's just the picks.
Yeah, it's just picks. So.
Well, that means that would make Allie an automatic winner. So I can't do that. So now I got to call an audible, and I got to take my friend is going to hate me, by the way, that watches this. So just so you know, my friend that I grew up since high school, that's the biggest Seahawks fan in the world. I apologize. And I'm doing this only to tie and not lose. I'm taking the New England Patriots to win in the squeaker.
Look, I don't think that's crazy. This is a good matchup. I don't think that this is going to be an incredibly high scoring game. I really don't. I think there's a lot of good defense here. I just trust the Seahawks offense a little more. And David, your point, they probably still feel slighted from that game several years ago, right? The goal line, and they should have just ran the damn ball with Marshawn Lynch, but they didn't.
Yep.
So I think that they're going to get a little bit of revenge here, and I'm going to go with Seattle. But let's turn it over now to some brief Cavs talk. We've got a couple of minutes here. A shocking trade. The Cavs trade Darius Garland to the Clippers in exchange for James Harden. What do you think, Dustin?
I like it. I know that there's all this talk that he collapses in the playoffs. There's all that. He can't play well with any team or whatever. But defensively, I think it's a B plus. And what I mean by that is we get the B plus, they get the B. It's a slightly better advantage for the Cavaliers. And then, of course, you probably saw Alonzo got dealt to the Jazz. Does this mean we're trying to bring back LeBron? I don't know what this means because, they're trying to get under the second apron with Cap, or not Cap, because they don't have a cap in the NFL or the NBA. But I don't know. This is interesting. Clearly, they didn't think what they had there was going to get them a championship.
It wasn't, right? I mean, that was abundantly clear. If it was, they would have done it last year. And, one thing you can say about James Harden is he does collapse in the playoffs, but he's available in the playoffs. Darius hasn't been. And, just injured. And it's unfortunate. I love Darius Garland. I really do. Loved him as a Cavalier. I think interesting. This is an interesting trade because you're trading a young guy for somebody that's bounced around and has been disgruntled. And, the thing with James Harden is he's going to score the ball, right? You're going to get some points. And this is going to be a lot of offense from a defensive perspective. It's interesting. I think the most interesting move actually is what you mentioned, is Lonzo Ball going to Utah. Ultimately, they're going to release him. He's going to be a free agent. They send two picks as well. This is essentially just a contract dump, and they're going to have a lot of flexibility here. We don't know if that's maybe a stepping stone trade for something else. That remains to be seen. But
Well, I mean, to your point, there's all this conversation. Does this open it for a LeBron Giannis type of thing to happen over the summer where 2027, they're all in, right? Like,
well,
I mean,
I think it's possible that something Giannis related could even happen now, like that. There's a possibility where this can happen now. So yeah, one thing I can appreciate about the Cavs, that you can't necessarily say about the Browns or the Guardians up until this point, is they'll take some swings. They will make some moves. And also the other trade that we didn't mention is DeAndre Hunter to the Kings, and you get Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. So, they're making some moves. I appreciate it. David, your thoughts on that?
yeah.
I mean, I agree with all of that and what you're saying. I mean, we talked about it a lot just because it's been the most exciting news right now. I think another point just to bring up with James Harden in the playoffs and kind of collapsing or not. You brought it up last night, Ali. Well, now he's got guys around him. It's always just been him when he goes to the playoffs with the team. He doesn't have a lot of supporting cast or big names. But now, at least for now, pending any other trades by 3 p.m. tomorrow, he's got Donovan, he's got Evan, he's got Jarrett, he's got these other guys that can step up and play a big role. I mean, we saw Jarrett put up over 40 points tonight. And so he is maybe stepping into a role or accepting responsibility here. And so if Evan can continue on an upward trajectory, and then obviously with Donovan, I think James doesn't have to feel all the pressure of being all the weight of the team on his shoulders. And that might open up the offense even more. And like Alex said last night, they're going to score a lot of points. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's
And for me, I mean, just the thought of LeBron, Giannis, Harden, and Donovan Mitchell all on the same team, like what team? I mean, like what team in the NBA would? I mean, that would be unstoppable, wouldn't it be? Like that's insane.
I don't know.
Crazy
thought. It's a crazy thought, but
I mean, hey, I said, Ali, I said 1 year, 2 years ago, they're gonna hoist another trophy before the Browns get to the playoff or Super Bowl.
It's true. Harden versus Westbrook, who's better? James Harden is better. They're both Hall of Famers, I think.
I mean, Westbrook's not a starter anymore.
He's not starting.
Good point.
I like Russell Westbrook. I do. I just think that at this point in their careers, certainly would rather have James Harden. It's just crazy to think that he's a Cleveland Cavalier. Just so much has happened, and look, I love the trade deadline. It's a lot of fun. But we're at our time, guys. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up here?
Everybody come out to our Super Bowl party at the Sports Plant. We're hosting out there. That'll be at 6:30 here in Euclid, Ohio, just east of Cleveland. But come out. It's going to be a great time. Big party. A lot of people are showing up, so look forward to that. So come out to our Super Bowl party. I haven't done one of these, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So
yeah, there you go. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy. And as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Browns.
Go Browns.